Hey, welcome to Steph's World. Let's see, this is number 52. Hey, I'm getting better. I can remember the different numbers now. I'm telling you, you never know what this will remember. Okay, why? Let's see. I had a stroke. I had a brain aneurysm. I guess those kind of things will do it to you. Okay. Now here's something else that's really bad. I had a brain aneurysm 5 years ago, and now I'm having seizures. Pretty bad. Now, I might have had them before I had the brain aneurysm. That's what one of the neurologists in Kansas City told me. She said, "You're probably having seizures and you don't even realize it." Well, now I know what she's talking about. Okay? She was probably right. And you ask yourself which came first, the egg or the card, okay? Or the egg or the I don't know what it is, but you know what I'm talking about. But my point is that we don't know which came first. We really don't. And now, if I was back in Kansas City, I'd be seeing all kinds of doctors right now. In fact, I'd be seeing so many that I'd want to tell a few where to go, right? That's the kind of person I am. Sorry, I try not to do that anymore, okay? I honestly do. I try to be loving and respectful. Honor and respect is a big thing in my life, okay? Honor and respect. It is really big. And if I do have trouble with somebody, you know what I have to learn to do? Shut this up. Yep, that's my big problem right here. There was a time in my life when it never shut up. And then next thing you know, I'm getting the hell beat out of me. Literally. And it wasn't just a husband. Of course, on the other hand, I was beaten back. So, remember I said in the last one I really wasn't afraid of too much? I wasn't. Okay? Still not. There is a reason for that. My brother, I think both my brothers are pretty much the same, but I think one of them that I'm close to, he is more like me. He's pretty much not afraid of anything. Now, he's a little different than me because he'll tell somebody what to do with themselves, not in a nice way either. He really is a pretty rough guy, and but he's full of love, and that's the important thing. When you love, when your heart's full of love, it doesn't matter what pops out of your mouth, really doesn't. You have to learn just to let it go, just to let it go. But I'll be honest with you, my brother is the most loving human being in the world. And right now, he's trying to figure out how to get me up to Chicago to say goodbye to my mother because she's dying. And it's a tough deal. Now, every time I talk to one of my sisters that's up there and sees her every day, she'll say, "Oh, Mom seems to be doing okay," and all this crap. And, she's talking to me, okay? And she always forgets that. So I'll turn around and I say, "Well, tell me this, Kathy. Can she remember blah, blah, blah? And does she tell you this? And does she talk about this? There was a time when I could call my mother and we could talk for an hour and a half about all kinds of things, about great grandpa being in India, and all of that. And I said, can she do all that? And my sister would go, no, no. In fact, she pretty much forgets everything within about 10 minutes. And I said, okay, that's all I needed to hear. Thank you. And then we don't discuss it anymore. I don't hear well, she's doing pretty good today. Well, what she means by that is she had a smile on her face. And I'm happy about that. Oh, I'm so happy about that. Oh my God. It's a wonderful thing for my mother to have a smile on her face. Okay, now, last time I told you about the beatings that I had and the broken neck and everything. Now, a lot of times I try not to tell people about that too much. You know why? I have a neighbor right next door here, and her mother came over to meet me and get to know me a little bit. And we were kind of trading off our histories a little bit and all that. And I didn't think anything of it, and I happened to mention about a few things in my life. And next thing you know, she's trying to get out of my house about as fast as she could. Yeah. And it didn't occur to me, oh, that was a total stranger you just told the most horrible things in life to. It didn't occur to me. Okay? So I'm trying to do this kind of slow. I'm trying to help you all understand that terrible things happened to me when I was young. Really bad things. Stuff that I may not even tell you about. But I'm going to tell you the good stuff. Alright? But I'm going to tell you what happened in between getting to the good stuff. Now, the one thing that was really important to me was being a good mother. Oh my God. You have no idea how important that was to me. It was the most important thing above everything else. Even going to school, that was more important to me. Being a good mother. Now, when I found out that my son, Matt, had cerebral palsy, I went through what I like to call the blame game and the feel sorry game. At first I was okay. I handled it pretty good. And then this brain up here wouldn't shut up. Okay? Sometimes we just got to make that thing shut up. And it would. And the next thing you know, I'm feeling like it's all my fault. That I must be the worst mother in the world and I caused my baby to have cerebral palsy. Now, instead of being supportive to him, which I tried to be, but not as supportive as I should have been in the beginning, and I'm not going to beat myself up for this, okay? It happened. It happened. That's life. I did it. That's life. And I really beat myself up. I kept thinking about his babyhood and what I should have done. Well, guess what? You can't worry about the should-haves. They're over with, aren't they? So, what was I doing? Worrying about the should-haves. That's what I call them. They were over with. Long gone, done. And besides that, his cerebral palsy wasn't caused by anything I did. Nothing. Not a thing. I pretty much know what caused it, and it wasn't me. But sadly, there were things that maybe I could have done for myself to solve that problem, but on the other hand, I'm glad I didn't today. I'm glad I didn't try to go after the real problem and what caused it. Oh, see this? I might have broke my hand. I don't know. I don't know for sure. I have seizures, and I hurt myself. And oh boy, did I hurt myself. Woo! I bought this thing yesterday because the hand hurt so bad. I had to wrap it with something. I knew I had to wrap something around it, and it helps. It doesn't hurt nearly as bad as it did. So I think I'm doing the right thing. No, I'm not going to go to a doctor, even though my pain doctor made an appointment for me yesterday to come in and see him. No. What good is it gonna do? What good is it gonna do me? It's not gonna help at all. So I decided, let's see if this works out. If it doesn't start healing up, I'll be seeing him in about 2 weeks. So, maybe by the time I see him, then he can look at it. And if they have to take x-rays, I'll be at the hospital. He can do it then, right? Okay. So anyway, that's what this is all about. I hurt my leg on this side too. I must have just really been going at it, let me tell you. When actually the leg hurt worse than the hand did. And then the leg started clearing up, but the hand didn't clear up. So I have seizures. That's life. They have tried to put me on something, but I'm allergic to so many different medicines, I can hardly take anything. It's a drag, but it's life. And you just gotta learn to live with it. Okay? And that's what I'm doing. I'm learning to live with it. Now, I got great things happening in my life right now. I really do. And I'm excited and happy, and I can't wait for these things to happen. But anyway, that's today. I want to tell you more about yesterday, the past, because you need to hear about it. I got a pretty low voice. I always did have a low voice. I was a really good singer when I was a teenager. I honestly was. I had a heck of a good voice, and my mother taught me how to sing, to use the diaphragm and everything. So I could belt it pretty good. But I have one of these, rough sounding voices, and so it was almost like a Stevie Nicks type sound. But I could keep it going. I could keep the tune in tune. And I was pretty good. I was in a band, in fact, for a while. So me and one of the guitar players and I had a fight, so that killed the band. Yeah. When I was young, I probably fought with every human being I ever knew. I mean it. I probably did. Uh, and there was a reason for that. I told you I had a rough beginning in life. I had a really tough time in the beginning of my life. Today, I'm grateful for it. How about that? I really am. Today, one of my brothers that I just talked to on the phone the other day, he's going to try to help me get up to Chicago to say goodbye to my mother. But he and I talked about an hour and a half on the phone. He's grateful too. No resentments, no rough stuff, no bad feelings. He's grateful. I was a bit shocked. I never thought I'd hear that out of him, but he is. We both are. Now, if we can get one of my other siblings to be grateful, life would be a lot better for her. Right now, she's going through a really horrible time in her life, and to be honest with you, we're afraid it's going to kill her. She's not looking too good. She's not young. When I did crazy things, I was young. She's in her 50s. She's not young at all. Well, anyway, let's get on with it. Now, last time I talked to you, I told you that I had my oldest son, and I never told you about him. Today I'm going to tell you about him and what happened. And I want you to remember something. I want you to remember about forgiving people. Forgiveness. And let me remind you about something that even if you don't believe in Christianity, I don't care. But what was said is what was important. Okay? It's what was said that makes the difference. I know that for a fact that Jesus the Christ, and I always call him Jesus the Christ because Christ ain't his last name, okay? I won't do it that way. Sorry. If you ever watch any of my other videos, I go into a little more explanation. Today, I'm doing it a different way. Okay, so Jesus the Christ tried to explain some things to people. He was a teacher, see? I mean, yeah, he died. We think he died on the cross and everything. That's what our holy books tell us. But that wasn't the whole reason he was here. He was here to teach us. Just like all the other holy men were here for. Muhammad was here to teach us. A lot of holy people were here to teach us. And we should be listening to all of them. And some of them say the same things. That's what I found out. Okay, now, I love this thing that Jesus said, okay? I guess they were going to stone some woman that was supposed to be a prostitute. It wasn't Mary, his disciple, by the way. That's not who it was, okay? Get that right out of your mind. Even the Catholic Church is owning up to that now. Now, I got information from other sources because I research. I read a lot of stuff. I research. Okay, now, one of the things he did, he saved this woman's life. They were going to stone her. See, now, they didn't stone the man, but they stoned the woman. I found that interesting, but we won't go there. Okay, so she was a prostitute, and they were going to stone her. And Jesus stepped right in front of them. I mean, right in front of them. And he said, okay, the first person, and he put a rock in his hand. And he said, the first person free of sin, here you go. I'm going to give you that rock, and you be the first person to throw that stone. Well, nobody stepped up. No one stepped up to the plate. They weren't free of sin, so to speak. Now, we'll talk about sin sometime because I have something to say about that too. I have a lot to say about a lot of things. Most people don't listen, but what the heck, might as well try. But anyway, so the way I see it, he talked about forgiveness big time. And so did Muhammad. So did Buddha. The Buddhas. Yeah, they do too, big time. Forgiveness is a big, big deal. Okay? Now, in one of my videos, I told you how to forgive, what the 4 steps were towards forgiving. Okay? But I'm not going to get into that today. The only reason I'm talking about this is because I'm going to tell you about something, and I want you to remember that if I don't have any blame, and I don't have any hard feelings, then it's not your business to have any either. Get my message? I forgave people that hurt me long ago. They've been forgiven. The slate is wiped clean. And today, I usually, almost always, wipe that slate clean almost immediately. Now sometimes I got to go through the process. Sometimes it's easy, but sometimes it isn't that easy. So I'll be honest. Okay, now, I got pregnant when I was 19 years old. I used to work with a young black man, and I really liked him. Oh my God, he was wonderful. And we would have lunches together. We would just sit, we'd just eat and talk all through lunch, every day. I just loved it. It was wonderful. Just wonderful. And I found out that he was going to school. He was going to UMKC. I was living in Kansas City at the time. Now, this was before Matt and Rachel. This is before the other children. Okay? This is my first son. And I was 19 years old. I was in Kansas City to keep me away from the wife beater. Remember him? Yeah. He wasn't really bothering me, but we were trying to make sure that he wasn't going to bother me. Because this guy would suddenly show up. He tried to run me down the street one time, even on the sidewalk. He'd put the car on the sidewalk and come after me. Yep, he definitely had some issues. Now, I didn't even tell you about his false eye and what he used to do with that. Yeah, that's a goodie. I'll tell you real quick, in fact. When he was sitting in the bar drinking away, he'd bet people his eye. Now, they didn't know he had a false eye, okay? Nobody knew it. I did, but nobody else knew it. And he'd bet him his eye. And they'd be thinking, yeah, you're right, okay, bud, sure. Now, his eye moved because the nerves in the back were still working. Some people's eyes, when they lose their eye, they don't work, okay, but his did. Okay, so he bet his eye, right? And he would purposely lose. I'm going to tell you something. This man was not stupid by any means. And it's a shame he did not use what he had. It is a crying shame. But anyway, remember I told you that these bars would let the wives in no matter how old they were. They didn't want to lose their good customers. And my ex-husband, he was an alcoholic. So they weren't going to lose him. Okay, so I was there one time when he did this. And he lost the bet. So the guy goes, okay, where's the eye? And he's laughing because he figures, yeah, right, okay, that was a nice little joke. Yeah. Now, this bar was full of really old timers and the regulars, okay? And a lot of them knew my ex-husband. They knew him. So they were all sitting there chuckling, okay? Because they knew what was coming. So, next thing you know, my ex-husband pops out his eye and rolls it down the bar. And the person that he made the bet with, their mouth, I'm sure they were catching flies with their mouth, okay? I mean, they were just in super shock. Yep, the guy really had a false eye. They couldn't believe it. But anyway, when he got, after somebody rolled it back to him, I'd say things like, well, don't you think you ought to clean that before you pop it back in your face? And he didn't care. I'm telling you, he didn't care. He just popped it right back in. And I think he wiped it on his shirt or something, but that was it. That was it. Can't imagine whatever happened to him in that eye. I really can't. I bet he lost it. I bet he ruined the nerves. That's my bet. Anyway, enough about him. We're done with him pretty much. Okay, now, so when I was 19, I lived in Kansas City, and the rest of my family was in Chicago. Now, I had relatives in Kansas City because my parents and grandparents, and I had a whole bunch of relatives from Missouri. From Missouri. Now, some of them, my great-grandpa was a Native American, full blood. At least that's what we were told. That's what my mother told me. And they lived with him. So I'm pretty positive it wasn't crap. I know it was the truth. Not only that, I got a kid, and I'm going to get my DNA checked. I want to make sure. But we have all the signs of it, so there's not too much question in my mind about it. And there's stories I could tell you that would probably freak you out about that. But anyway, getting on with it. So I knew this black guy, and he and I got along great. Now this was 1972. Okay? I had hitchhiked out to California, by the way. Me and another guy. And the other guy was not my lover by any means. In fact, we fought the whole way out. Now that's another cool story. It'll make you laugh to the point where you may even have to run to the bathroom. It was so funny. But anyway, I had hitchhiked out to California. And, I've had an interesting life, let me tell you. It's just full of stuff. But there are lessons and there are miracles in this life. And that's what I'm going to try to tell you about. So, me and the black guy decided, and now I call him the black guy because, frankly, it's been so long. I think his name might have been Aaron, but it's been a long time. And there's a reason why I think that might be his name. And you'll hear why. Now, Aaron was a cool guy, really cool. He was my real friend in Kansas City. Nobody else was, but Aaron was. I was alone. I really didn't have hardly any friends at that time. That was the first time I was in Kansas City, and I didn't know my way around anywhere. I lived in South Kansas City, didn't know my way around. I would get rides to work or I'd take the bus, but it didn't matter. I just didn't know. I didn't know how big Kansas City really was. I didn't know anything. If I'd had a car, I would have known. Okay? I would have found my way around much faster. Okay, but the time I lived there, I didn't know my way around at all. Oh, and the big airport that's there now, back then, we all used the downtown airport. That's how we flew in and out of Kansas City, downtown airport. Now later, as these progress, I'll tell you about that, later on, because it's kind of ironic that I used it when I was a kid, when I was 19 years old. I used it, and that was when we had to walk up the steps to get on board, There was none of the pull the ramps up or any of that, okay? It's cool. Okay, now, I was open-minded. I was a biker hippie chick, okay? I really was. And I did not feel prejudiced against anyone. My mind was totally open, okay? It really was. In fact, I didn't care whether a person was gay. I didn't care about anything. Your business was your business. You were who you were. That was how I felt about everybody. All right? Even back then, before I even got any kind of real help with all the issues that I did have. Now, one of my issues was a real bad temper. That was one of my issues. Okay. So anyway, Aaron and I, boy, we got along great. Now, Aaron, he liked me. I was a pretty young thing. I really was. I was a little teeny tiny girl. And he really liked me, And so he invited me to come over to his house. And there was another reason for this, but I'm not going to tell about it because it's nobody's business but mine, okay? But he knew that I didn't really like spending that much time with my aunt and uncle. That was who I was living with at the time. And so he invited me over one Friday night for dinner. And he came and got me in his car. And I went to his house, or his apartment, and it was so cool. Oh my God, I loved it. Oh my God, I loved it. Okay, now, that was back in 1972. Now, if you haven't been born yet, you don't know. You don't know what it was like. But I'm going to tell you what it was like. I knew this guy. It wasn't like I just met him in a bar or something and, we went home together. No. I had known him for 2 months at least. Okay, now that was a long time for me. Okay? And we had a wonderful dinner. I loved his apartment. He was a great cook, by the way. I mean, great cook. He was clean. He was like me. I was a clean freak. So was he. Okay? Kept his apartment beautiful. Had incense going. Oh man, it was wonderful. And back then, I will admit, hey, I'll admit it. Did I smoke a little dope? And we're talking about marijuana now. You betcha. Yeah, I did. I'm being truthful. I'm not going to tell you lies. Okay? I'm not going to tell you a lie. But I am going to tell you some pretty tough stuff right now. Well, I spent the night with them. Okay? And you know what that means. And you know I really did care about them. But the problem was I did not think that my dad was really important to me. Believe me, he was. He shouldn't have been, but he was. And I did not feel that my father would approve of this relationship. So I told Aaron, let's keep it friends. Let's just keep it friends, okay? He understood, and he was really cool about it. And we continued to do what we did, all right? We continued. He was my best friend. Okay, so several weeks later, I suddenly realized something. I was pregnant. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to do the should-haves, and don't you do them either. Believe me, I've done them. I've already done them. So you don't need to do them, okay? That cancels it out. Steph did the should-haves. You don't need to. No, I didn't tell him that he was the daddy. No, I didn't do it. And believe me, that during that 9 months and 2 weeks that I carried the sweet baby boy, I thought about it over and over again. And I thought, God, Steph, you need to tell him, you know. And my uncle, he talked me into giving up the baby. He told me it'd be best for the baby. Now here's the bad part. I went out, I found a guy, I met a guy. Before I realized I was pregnant, okay, I met another guy. And he was a white guy. And he had hair almost as long as mine. And I've had long hair on most of my life, okay? I thought he was a girl. When I first met him, he wasn't very big, you know. And he was standing we were in the bar together, and he was waiting. It looked like he was waiting for the women's bathroom. And I got in line right next to him. He wasn't waiting. He was just playing a game. Well, I thought he was hilarious. And when a man made me laugh, I wanted to get to know him. So I got to know him. And I got to know him real well. So I told my uncle that this other guy, when I finally owned up to being pregnant, which was months later, it took a while before I really showed, because it was the first real pregnancy. I had lots of miscarriages. For some reason, I had trouble carrying children. It was a miracle. Anytime I carried a baby full term, that was a miracle. And I began to realize that because I was pregnant 9 times. I had 3 live children. 9 times. 3 live children. Okay, so anyway, I led my uncle to believe that this other guy was dead. And I didn't think about it. I was a young girl. I was 19 years old. I never considered that maybe the child would be darker skinned. I just never even thought about it. And here's the reason why. I have pictures of my mother when she was younger, dark as dark can be. So even if my child was born dark, who cares? My mother was dark skinned. All of us 6 kids, we were all hugely white things, okay? And here we had a mother that was so dark skinned, it was unbelievable. Now, I showed you a picture of her a while back, but man, something happened to her. Her skin coloring changed. And I don't know if that's normal or what, but she'd never been that light skinned ever. And it kind of took me by surprise. I didn't recognize my mother, frankly. But anyway, my uncle talked me into the possibility of giving him up. And he told me that if I changed my mind, no big deal. So I went through the Catholic charities, okay? And they made sure I went to the doctor all the time. I took all the right pills and all that. My family found out about it. And actually, they were okay with it. It was all right, you know. They weren't that upset. But there was a lot going on in the family. There were some really terrible things going on in my family that I'm not going to discuss. But it was between my mother and father. It was the worst time in their relationship. And because it was so bad, that was probably why, had it not been like that, when I begged my parents to let me come home, they probably would have. Especially being pregnant. They probably would have. But my mother was in a very strange place. Okay? Now remember what I said about forgiveness. Didn't Jesus talk about forgiveness? Huh? And I think all the other ones did too. Pretty sure. I'd probably look it all up for you if you want. But anyway, I worked until my due date. I was a worker. I didn't mind working a bit. In fact, to me, that was the best job I ever had in my life. Helping people seemed to make me the happiest person ever. I was actually very happy. I didn't make hardly any money, but I was so happy in this job. I worked with people who were disabled. How about that? I worked with disabled people. Here I am. Disabled or challenged is how we like to put it. Okay, now I quit working on right about my due date. Well, my baby decided he liked it nice and warm inside there. He was 2 weeks late. And my water broke. I was staying at my grandma's then because my aunt and uncle were moving way far away. And I mean way far away. And so my living with them was coming to an end. And I was going to go back up to Chicago. I had it all worked out. I even tried to save money so I could get a car, do all things I needed to do. And I did save money. I was very good at that, by the way. So, 2 weeks late, I had a child making his appearance. But oh boy, was that a tough labor. 40 hours. And by the way, back then, they didn't give you anything. Nothing. Nothing. No epidural, no nothing. And especially not in the poorhouse place, which is where I had to go. I had no insurance. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about this hospital, the labor room. It had about 10 beds in it. Okay, I guess you call them beds. Actually, after being down here in Savannah, those were better beds than what I've run into down here in their emergency rooms here. Okay, that needs to change, and I'm going to do something about it. Okay, so anyway, then the nurse's station was glassed in, and it was right in the middle of the room. Okay. Now, I was the longest one in there. Girls would come in, women would come in, and then next thing you know, they were rolling them out to have the baby. Now, I never had a baby before, so this was all brand new to me. And I thought, oh my God, this pain is horrible. It was the most horrible, painful thing you could ever imagine for a young girl, 19-year-old girl, to have to go through. No help. Nobody was there. I was all by myself. And they wouldn't let anybody in there anyway. That was the rule. And unless I could walk to say goodbye to my aunt and uncle, I couldn't even do that. So when they were leaving, I made myself walk, even though I felt like the baby was right there, ready to come out. And by the way, he made me about that big. I mean, wow. I never thought I could be that big, but we'll get into that later. But anyway, I was super big with baby, okay? Now I managed to get out and say goodbye to my aunt and uncle, and I told them how horrible it was in there, and that, even if they could stay, they wouldn't have been able to stay with me. And I was crying and carrying on, and they were telling me to be strong and all this kind of stuff. And when someone tells you to be strong when you're going through the worst pain of your life, you want to tell them to go to hell. You really do. I'm not going to kid around about it. You do. But I didn't. I just nodded and said, okay, I'll be strong. Right. Okay, well, I had no choice but to be strong. There wasn't a choice here. Well, there was. You have a choice to do anything in your life, by the way. Everybody has a choice. I want you to remember that. We have a choice. I could have gone back in that room and just screamed my lungs out. But you know what? I didn't. I went back in that room and I moaned. I tried not to bother anyone. I just moaned. And I fussed. And I tried to hide that in the pillow. I moaned and I fussed. And that's all I did. Now there's a reason for that. And one of these days I'll talk about that reason, but right now I'm not going to. Okay, so finally on that Sunday, this all started Friday night. Finally that Sunday, a doctor came in to the room. They'd been checking me. I never got above 5 centimeters. You're supposed to go to 10. I never got to past 5. Never. Well, by then the baby was already down in the canal there, or the whatever the heck they call it, the chute. Okay, So my baby was ready to, let's go, Mom. But unfortunately, Mom wasn't ready. So this doctor came in, and guess what? It was a black doctor. Pretty cool, huh? I thought it was great, man. So he said to me, this has gone on long enough. You're having this baby and you're having it right now. That was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Sunday afternoon. They rolled me back into the delivery room. He stayed with me. He held my hand. I was crying, and he held my hand. Nobody else did, but he did. I think he realized what a horrible thing that was for me to go through alone. Horrible. So anyway, I'm in the delivery room, and boy, he got him out real fast. Wow. I thought, my God, it was painful, horribly painful, but it was that quick. And I had a screaming little baby boy. And he may have been a little bit darker color, but not much. So when they give you the birth certificate, I put white. As far as I was concerned, I didn't care. I had them. I was called white, and I put white. And I don't give a darn what anybody would say about that. Back then, I would have told them what to do with themselves. I was putting white, and that was all there is to it. That was my baby. And that's how I felt about him. Because as it turned out, I saw my baby. I held my baby. I fed my baby. I comforted my baby when he cried. I changed my baby's diapers. He was my baby. And by the time I left that hospital, nobody was taking that baby away from me. That was my baby. Nobody. Which was probably a good thing, because they would have been in shock as he got older. I laugh about it because he has blonde red hair. But that isn't what would have shocked him. But anyway, Brian's his name. Okay? His name is Brian. You know, Brian's almost 40 years old. He'll be 40 in July. 40. Do I look like I could have a 40-year-old son? But I do. And my other son who passed, he would have been 36 if he were still here. Yeah. And my daughter, she just turned 34. Now, I had a rough time with her turning 34 because 34 is when my son passed. And I had horrible, horrible dreams and thoughts that my daughter was going to die. Just terrible things. Well, anyway, oh boy, we're getting along here. Okay, now, I'm going to have to do a part 2 on this. Okay? Now, remember what I said about forgiveness. I want you to keep that in mind. Forgiveness. We forgive. Isn't that what Jesus said? And even if you don't believe in it, just try it. You'll feel a lot better if you do. Hey, I'm going to let you go. I love y'all. Talk to you soon. Bye.